I'd like to thank you all for joining us for a special playoff edition of In the Bleachers. Today I'm being joined by my co-host, Coach Wallace and Rich Flera. And I'd like to just take a little second. I've been inundated with phone calls the past several weeks during the Patriots game where people are saying, there's a guy on the sidelines that looks just like Coach. Well, the fact of the matter is that was Coach. And that's one of the reasons we haven't taped anything in a while. I'm sure many of you have heard or seen over the years that Bill Belichick has something he calls the Bill Belichick Coaching Academy, where he has lifetime season ticket holders actually get to spend 8 games during the season with him. And Coach was attending that last time. In fact, for a couple of games, he was the guy that was actually holding the cable for Belichick. So,
Cable holder now, huh?
Coach, I appreciate. Maybe you can give us some insight on what actually goes on the sidelines. And I'll tell you, I never had the phone ring so much in my life.
Well, I don't know about any of that, Dave, but I can tell you, though, that in honor of Matt Patricia, who I think is one of the most underrated defensive coordinators in the league, it's no credit. Actually, the only time he gets any credit is when something goes bad, they say it's Matt Patricia. But if it's a good defensive play, they say, well, Belichick runs the defense.
Right.
So he's in a no-win situation. So I'm wearing my hat backwards today with my little Coach logo. My daughter gave me this cap for Christmas. I'm wearing it in honor of Matt Patricia for this show.
Well, now I'm getting confused because now I'm beginning to wonder, is the person we thought was you, was it actually Matt Patricia?
I've been mistaken for him before.
Rich.
Happy New Year. It's good
Nice
to be
see
back.
you here.
2014, David. Can you imagine?
No, I can't.
2014. I wrote a check out the other day, and I had to put that. It's like, wow. What happened to 13? I barely was getting used to 12. The years fly by, buddy.
Since when do you
by.
write out checks?
Well, I don't. That's the whole thing. I didn't write one out in all of 13. I didn't see the number before. I waited a year to write one.
All right. Well, first of all, Coach, maybe we can do a special one of these days about what it was like to spend 8 weeks on the sidelines with the coach.
Sure we can, Dave.
And maybe we have some highlights we can show of that.
Maybe we will. Maybe we will.
All right. With that being said, let's talk a little bit about Wild Card Weekend. And I guess I'm going to start off, Rich, by asking you to give me some of your insights about some of what you thought the big surprises were of the weekend.
Well, San Diego going into Cincinnati and dominating in the fashion that they did. Not that they necessarily won the game, just in the fashion that they did with the ground and pound. Cincinnati was undefeated at home, 8-0, going into the playoffs. They hadn't won a playoff game with Marvin Lewis or Andy Dalton, so everyone said that this would be the time. Yeah. But the Chargers went in there and they acted like they were the better team, and they completely dismantled a very good defense. I mean, I know they suffered injuries. Geno Atkins, one of the better defensive tackles, was injured. But still, to be able to run the ball like that for almost 200 yards was pretty impressive, and they're going to look to duplicate that this week in Denver, where they've already won this year in Denver, doing exactly that. They ran the ball, controlled the time of possession. So, I mean, San Diego's hot there. How often does this happen? Every year, there's a team that gets into the playoffs, a wild card team. They get hot at the end of the year, and they ride that momentum all the way through. Yeah. San Diego could be that team this year.
Okay, well, I'll be interested to hear your insights when we do the Fab Four and we talk about them playing Denver. Coach, what did you take away from the weekend?
Surprise-wise, I agree. That San Diego game was a real surprise. It's the biggest spread, I think, for the week, right?
Yes, I mean, Cincinnati was like 8-point favorites.
8-point dog. Geez, if you teased them, it would have been like 16 or something, right?
Something like that.
But surprise-wise, I don't know. I think that first game was pretty outrageous. So the Colts coming back, I didn't think they were going to do it.
38-10.
Yeah, 28. I mean, they were solid 28 down, and I really never got the point where I was just going to walk away from it. I guess I didn't think they were going to come all the way back, but I definitely thought they'd make a game of it. And Pagano, I am really not a lot impressed with him as a coach, but boy, they play for him really hard, you know.
Yeah.
And I think he's got that going for them. And that kid Luck, I give him a couple of years, and he'll be right at the top of this league.
But again, when are we going to learn from history? Like I just said about the Chargers, about a team getting hot at the end. Teams, I mean, they didn't get up 38-10. Being conservative like they were in the second half. They got the big lead, and they completely got away from what got them the lead. It's like when teams go into prevent at the end of the game. How many times do you see teams burnt by that, but yet teams still do it, and they got very conservative. They scored 38 in the first half, 6 in the second half, because they completely got away from what they were successful for in the first half. The other two games weren't surprises. San Fran and New Orleans won. I don't think anyone was surprised by that. Both were good football games, which was also not a surprise. So I think the big surprise to me was San Diego handling Cincinnati in the fashion that they did.
Okay, well, I got a couple of quick tidbits about it. First of all, I was listening to the Indianapolis-Kansas City game on radio because I was working. And
you have a job, that's right.
Yeah.
You pointed that out earlier, yeah.
James Lofton was the color commentator.
Oh, yeah.
And they were down, it was like 38-17, okay? And Lofton said something at the time I thought was ridiculous. He said, I'm feeling deja vu here, folks. I'm feeling deja vu. And the Wild Eagle was the other one doing it. And he said, what are you talking about? He goes, it was like 30 years ago that I was sitting right on the bench watching Frank Reich come in and bring
Buffalo
them back. And
against Houston.
Yeah. And I'm saying to myself, what are you
Wow.
talking about,
Yeah.
James? They just scored one touchdown.
Yeah.
And yet he
called it.
He called it. He says,
Yeah.
I feel something's happening right now. I feel something's happening. These Chiefs better watch out. And boy, he was right.
Wow, called it.
So that was that. Second,
Who's the guy that you said, Wild Eagle?
they call
Ian
him
Eagle.
Oh,
Ian Eagle.
The Iron
Ian
Eagle.
Eagle.
His name's Ian.
Ian,
and
Ian.
he says Iron, so
Yeah.
he's like Iron Eagle.
Yeah, Iron
The
Eagle.
Wild Eagle was
Frank DeCova on F Troop.
with the Pacawis.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
And Crazy Horse.
Crazy horse, yeah.
And another quick tidbit: did you know that Calamity Jane there,
Wrangler Jane, yes.
the first season of taping, she was only 15 years old.
Whoa,
She lied on her birth certificate.
wow. She was pretty advanced for her age.
Yeah,
Captain Palmerton could get in some pretty big trouble.
damn right.
You have no idea what we're talking about, right?
Nope.
These young kids out
Yeah,
there.
they don't get it, but
No.
oh yeah.
F Troop, no.
No.
No,
Hogan's Heroes,
well, still
no.
this way.
Gilligan's Island.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
But I don't really.
Well, Melody
No, too
Patterson.
specifically.
But, yeah, well,
Marianne or
anyways.
Ginger?
Ginger.
Ginger.
I don't
Sure.
care how many pretend it was Marianne. But anyways,
Unaware.
we've talked about James Lofton, and now we're going to talk about one of my true heroes, Tony Kornheiser.
Mm.
And on PTI, the Friday before the game, he's talking about Marvin Lewis never being able to win. And he stood there with a straight face, and he says, if Marvin Lewis can't find a way to win this time, then he should be running up and down the streets of Cincinnati with his underpants on his head. Because that's how pathetic it will be if he can't in 20 years win. So I was amazed to hear that there was a sighting of
He was
Marvin
running
Lewis
around.
with his underwear on his head.
That's not going to help him land his next job, though.
No,
is
probably not.
No.
Well, they say they're gonna
He's
keep
safe.
him in the
Yeah,
red.
he's not going anywhere.
They're gonna be
it?
safe.
Really?
Yeah,
They're content with just making the playoffs, I guess.
I guess so.
Wow.
I understand that next week him and Andy Reid will be inducted into the Marty Schottenheimer Hall of Fame. So.
Oh, Norv Turner's going to actually induct him, right?
Yeah. All right. So we put last week together very neatly, and now let's focus our time on talking this week. And Coach, we're going to do the Fab Four, and I'm going to hand the reins over to you.
Yeah, all right. So Fab Four, we've broken it into Saturday, Sunday games. And I guess on the Saturday front there, let's just start out with the game of the week, which I think is going to be the Indy-Pats game. Pats are a touchdown favorite at home. This kid Luck's coming off that game that you just, I don't know. I mean, that's a game that you for the ages, right? I mean, we remember that game.
Yeah.
The Buffalo, the Frank Reich game,
Yeah.
because it was a playoff game, and how many years ago was that?
38-10. The
I knew
game's
right when you
over.
said it,
Yeah.
the game you're talking about. So this game will be remembered, and it's one that he'll put in his highlight reel. But I think he's shot all the bullets in his gun this year, and I think he's just going to be really overwhelmed. I haven't really been impressed with the Colts on the road. At home, they've been decent, and they have had a couple of good road efforts, but I just don't see it here. Cold weather, even if it's going to be, I guess we looked at the weather report
Yeah,
before.
50 and rainy.
50 and rainy is right now they're saying, so 50 sounds like balmy. We're filming this on a Wednesday, and it's got to be, 10 degrees out there, so 50 would be really nice. So I'll start with the Indy Pats game, and I like the Pats touchdown. I ain't worried about it. I'm thinking Pats big.
Well, I mean, Indy's got some impressive wins on their resume this year. They went to San Francisco, won in San Francisco, and then they got some mind-boggling losses like they lost at home to the St. Louis Rams. So there's a team that's tough to gauge week to week. With that said, I think they'll ride the momentum of last week's win in the Foxborough. The Patriots are down another guy, Spikes, on the IR. I mean, how many more guys can you lose?
I think the answer is infinite.
But
Yeah.
apparently,
It's going to be interchangeable.
yeah. I mean, I think Dane Fletcher actually it was obvious Spikes had been laboring in the last few weeks. People were calling for Dane Fletcher to get more playing time because he was clearly outplaying Spikes, who was on one leg, and him going to the IR was obvious that he was hurt. But with that said, I think the Patriots will be all right. They should be able to run the football. I like what Blount did, obviously, in his last week against the Bills. But with Ridley, interchangeable back, with Vereen, and what he can do pass catching, I think they have all the weapons to neutralize this Indy attack. I think they'll be okay. I think they'll be able to run the football. But I think the Colts will give them a game. I think it'll be a game. I think anyone thinks that the Patriots will run away with this because it's in Foxborough, because this, that, I think they're out of their minds. I think it'll be a tough, close football game that the Patriots will win. I'm thinking 27-24, 27-20, 31-24, somewhere in that range.
So you tease them probably.
So I'd probably I'd probably tease the Colts up, take that 17 points, and then ride it.
Okay.
I'd like to weigh in quickly before I give my answer.
Of course.
By
Please do.
asking you two to give your answer on what's the over-under on how many catches Deion Branch has.
Oh.
I think 1 would be the over-under, and I would take the under. That's what I would put it at.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that's probably the right number, 1, and I'll go over just for saying over, but I'd be lucky if he sees the field. I would think, right? This is a scout team thing. Plus, you want to hear my thoughts on it?
Oh, yes, I do.
I mean, I know you asked the question to Rich, but
I asked
No,
both
you're
of you.
good.
all right. Well, I had a small thought about it. You know, when I saw that come up in the RSS feed, you know, Deion Branch goes to the Colts. And all I can think about is how he's been actually re-embraced by the team after he went to Seattle, and he has been given some access to the team. And I started thinking, wow, that's probably, maybe he does have some information that, you know, could give them some insight. And then I thought, wait a minute, this is a plant. This is Bill Belichick saying, you know what, Deion, why don't you cozy up with those guys and tell them this? And I think he's a plant. I think they fell right into his trap, and they thought they were stealing one on Belichick, and he's going to turn around and actually pull one over on them.
Someone on Around the Horn said that too. They were asking about it. He said, yeah, I think. They go, no, I don't think he might be a spy, but he's a spy for Belichick. He's a mole.
There you go. Spy cam, spy gate, now spy mole.
The answer is I think he is gonna play, and I think he's gonna have 3 catches.
All right.
So that's my thought on that. And
One injury note for them, though, they lost a cornerback. One of their starting cornerbacks went on the IR, so maybe we'll be able to expose them. And our old friend Darius Butler is one of the cornerbacks, and we know him pretty well. We have the scouting report on him, obviously.
Yep.
So that could be an advantage for us, too. One of their starting cornerbacks is down, and their other one was outcasted here, so we obviously know how to go at him.
Okay, I'll give you my take on how I think the game will play. I think it will be a very tough one. I think from the Patriots' standpoint, they are going to start off by throwing, and then I think they're going to bring Blount into it. I think you got to continue to run Blount until someone shows they can stop him.
Do you think they'll stay with running back by committee, Dave?
I think Blount will get 80% of it, and if it is wet, do not be surprised to see Ridley not even dress.
Yeah, game day scratch. Would not be surprised.
He still does not have Belichick's thing. If it is 50 and wet and whatever, I would not be surprised to see Belichick not giving him the ball.
Yeah.
That's my opinion
Lean on
on
Vereen a
that.
little bit. Yeah.
I think he'll get more of the carries in the first half, and then in the second half, they'll just ride the hot hand. If one of the running backs is separating himself and really starting to make an impact on the game, I think he'll just ride the hot hand.
Now, my 2 cents on that is I think Blount's the number 1 running back right now until he shows that he's human again. I mean, have you ever seen it? I mean, gee, the guy's 6'11". It was like Wilt Chamberlain was running back kicks. I mean, it was something else watching him.
He's a big, you don't
His
see a big
speed
man.
is definitely
Deceptive.
deceiving because he can break away from the pack, which he has done. I mean, in both his touchdowns in the Bills game were 39 and 50 yards.
I love his straight arms, man. His straight arms are punches to the face.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's just,
You might as well enjoy those because you know the way the NFL is going. Those will be eliminated in the next 2 to 3 years.
Too dangerous, I guess. I don't know.
Well, no, I mean that's where it's something towards the head, and now the head is slowly being taken out of play. So I will think eventually they'll get rid of that.